recent video on cultural mistakes, the question of how to do accents kept popping up in the comments. So in today's bite-sized world building, I thought I'd cover some techniques I've seen and used to make regions and accents and characters sound unique. Just before we start, I do want to say, be cautious and test this with your beta readers first. It is very, very easy to overdo accents, and then instead of adding to the reader's experience and making the character sound distinct and unique, those accents distract the reader and creates a barrier to entry for them to consume your story. So what you want here is for this to be spice sprinkled into the dialogue, not a whole meal. Okay, with those caveats out of the way, let's start with one of the simplest techniques, regional word choices, idioms, and accents. So, I finished Blood and Bloom in Las Vegas recently. Don't go looking for it, it's not published yet. And it actually won me the Flash 500 unpublished novel opening competition, so I'm quite proud of what I did with it. The first-person protagonist in Blood and Bloom in Las Vegas is Lily Harper, and she's from Boston, though she is, in the story, living in Las Vegas. In order to make Lily sound Bostonian, I leaned heavily on Boston slang, especially wicked and wicked pissa. I also had a Valley Girl forensic tech accent in the mix from another character. So, here is an example of dialogue from the first chapter. Lily has just arrived at a crime scene where there are flowers growing out of a dead guy's chest. "What do you think?" Detective Jim Ramirez asked in a flat tone, as though this was just another crime scene. "It's a wicked weird flower patch." I snapped on a pair of latex gloves and tucked my auburn hair under a cap as I knelt next to the forensic tech, Maria. Were they inserted posthumously? She wore a plastic jumpsuit with those scrunchy booties over her sneakers, like shower caps for your shoes. "Come on, Lily. You think I can tell that from here?" I would guess yes, just on logic, but I'll only know after the autopsy. "Sure. No other wounds, though? Something in the neck? Drugs?" Her Valley Girl twang brought out the worst of my Bostonian accent, and almost had me dropping my R's like they were hot. But I muscled through, hanging on to every R. Nothing except the chest, which is like plenty. Maria touched one of the silver petals. "Any idea what these are? I've never seen them." So as you can see just from that snippet, you can create an accent like that, where you don't actually spell the words any differently, and you don't write the accent into the tone. Instead, you use regional words and expressions. For example, the Valley Girl like and the Bostonian wicked. Blood and Bloom is actually my first foray into romantasy, and I quite enjoyed writing it. It's a new kind of genre for me in terms of writing. I hope you'll also enjoy reading it when it comes out. And if you're interested in learning more about writing romantasy, why not join me at Reedsy's Romantasy Conference on the 19th of April, 2026. It's a 4-hour online event open to everyone to attend, with guest speakers like Jennifer Armentrout and romantasy-specific editors. There will also be a live panel discussion with a Q&A section. It does cost $99, but if you use the code MARIE10, all in caps, you'll get a $10 discount just for subscribers of Just in Time World Building. I'll leave a link to the conference in the description and in the pinned comment. If romantasy is your jam, I hope I'll see you there. Link and discount code down below. So that's one of the easiest ways to create an accent, is to make up a few regional slang words and stick them into various characters' dialogue for those characters that come from those regions. It will make each character sound unique, and it works really, really well. And it's not just me that says so. Firefly used this to great effect with words like shiny and goran and so on, which really made the crew's dialogue sound unique. And let me know in the comments if anyone else is excited for the animated series that's supposedly coming. I am excited and tentatively optimistic, but a little scared. Let me know how you're feeling down below. Anyway, Kennings are another version of this kind of accent where you replace some words with other words. For example, ocean becomes the whale road, sun becomes the day candle, or in John Gwain's case, mind becomes thought cage. And he is one of those warning authors where thought cage, for me at least, became a little annoying as time went on. Anyway, this kind of poetic translation can also be a great way to show an accent in a language that the character doesn't speak natively, as the character might be translating their language directly into a new language. And instead of saying sun, they say day candle, because that's the direct translation of two conjoined words. A real-life example of this, in Finnish, a computer is a knowledge machine. That's what the word tietokone literally means. So if you don't know the English word computer, you might say, I need to use the knowledge machine. And that sort of construction for a few words, not a lot of words, remember sprinkling this in, but that sort of construction would really make the character sound unique and would show that this is not their native language that they're speaking in. So besides making up slang words, there is another variation of making accents, and that is spelling the words a little differently. In this way of creating an accent, you can do things like drop the HE of the and combine it with a word following it. For example, one or to other. And that's normally used as a kind of Gaelic accent. Or you can drop the G on ing words. For example, I'm slapping you tonight. Or you can change the ing, the end of the ing words. For example, I'm gonna slap you tonight. So all of these regional spellings can also make a character sound unique. Again, bear in mind, sprinkles, not overloaded. Any of these can easily create a great accent, and any of the ones mentioned so far are how most writers create an accent. They use slang words, idioms, direct translation, kennings, or slightly altered spelling. But there is one more way to create an accent that I don't see often enough, which is you can use sentence construction or strange grammar to make someone sound really unique. Yoda is a great example of this. Everyone knows that sentence construction of his object, subject, verb, instead of our much more normal, in English at least, subject, verb, object. Now, again, I would advise against going full Yoda. Everyone knows that accent, and so you'll just sound derivative. But instead of doing that, you can do things like, instead of conjugating verbs, a character might use the wrong verb form. For example, I is instead of I am. And they might use is for all their conjugation of the verb, perhaps because their native language does not have any verb conjugation. So they would say something like, I reads the book, or I closes the door, because, as I say, they conjugate everything to third person singular. Or you could add a unique speech pattern, like the resumptive pronoun, also called pronoun doubling. This is when you add what would be an unnecessary pronoun in English after naming the subject. Some Bantu languages have this construction specifically, and when native speakers of those languages learn English, they often bring in that shadow pronoun, that repetitive pronoun. And so their dialogue would sound something like this. When a child, they are orphaned, they become a ward of the temple. And this would be said instead of the very straightforward, when a child is orphaned, they become a ward of the temple. You can see the resumptive pronoun there, the pronoun that points back at the subject that has just been named. That is a great way to distinguish the way a character speaks. And I use this in my latest epic fantasy work that is my current work in progress, so don't go looking for it yet. But I have a character there who uses that construction with the resumptive pronoun when she speaks temple tongue, which is the shared language of the continent. But she doesn't use that construction when she speaks her native language of Sidaneshi, which of course has the double pronoun baked in. So by the fantasy, by the fantasy convention of everything is translated to English, that just reads like normal English. And that's more or less all the ways that I would do an accent in fantasy. I'd use slang and idioms, including made-up words like they do in Firefly. I could do spelling variations as they do in many, many, many books. You can also do grammar variations, which is also quite common. And as part of grammar variations, don't forget about sentence construction a la Yoda's construction or those resumptive pronouns. How would you create an accent? Did I miss any? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to check out that Resumptive Conference from Reedsy. And I will see you soon for another episode.